This is Midwest Moxie, a show about our region's visionary entrepreneurs and the experiences that shape them. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher, Executive Director of Five Lakes Institute. John Rinaldi started real-time automation in 1988 to make products that help the factory floor run more smoothly. It had a slow start. No matter how much time John and his team put into engineering the products, RTA sunk further into debt. Then, after attending a seminar run by a famous business expert, everything changed. John reorganized the entire office around his newfound insight. He needed to spend his time on marketing, not engineering. Pewaukee, Wisconsin-based real-time automation has 27 employees. In 2025, John created an ESOP, or Employee Stock Ownership Plan, and sold 20% of the company to his employees. John, welcome to Midwest Moxie.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Tell us about your interest in the toy industry. I want to say you got technical degrees. You got an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering and a graduate degree in computer science, but then you decided you wanted to do toys, right?
Yeah, so I was working at Allen Bradley. It was Allen Bradley then. This is before Rockwell bought it. And a couple of guys there, and I said, boy, it'd be great to be in business, and looked around and said, we'd like to make toys, like to make electronic toys like Furby, things that react to people. And I found out two things. I found out, number one, it's terribly expensive to be in the toy business. And number two, it's the most secretive industry on earth. Nobody will talk to anybody about anything in the toy business because everybody steals their IP. So if you create a toy, somebody knocks it off within seconds. So it's a terrible business to be in. And I was at Allen Bradley, and I was pretty dissatisfied. I've been dissatisfied at every job I've ever had. I wanted to talk to customers, and as an engineer, they don't want you to talk to customers because engineers typically tell the truth. So they don't want that. And I wanted to travel around and see things. They just want me to sit behind my computer terminal and crank out software. And even that, they didn't really care that much about that, which really surprised me, because I would work until 3 o'clock in the morning, finish a project, finish some software, and come in at, say, 10:30. I'd get home at 4. So I'd come in at 10:30. And the first thing the boss would say to me is, John, you got to be in your chair at 8 o'clock. And I go, but Joe, I got the project done. Oh, that doesn't matter. And so I said, well, the hell with this. So they were going to lay some people off. So I decided, hey, I'll go out on my own, and I'll do some things I'll do this toy business on my own.
I mean, I'd say so far it seems like you have that personality to do it on your own.
Well, yeah, I like to do things, which was fine. That it's great to be able to do things on your own, but now where I have 27 people, I learned it took me like 15 years to figure out that I was the wrong one to run the company, because I'm not a team player. I just like to take something and run with it. And then when you got a whole bunch of people in marketing and people in engineering, and there I am kind of doing stuff, and they don't know what I'm doing, it really doesn't work out well. So I appointed a president, and now he's the one that has to try to control me and ask me not to do that stuff, not to. So,
well, speaking of controlling you, let's back up a minute to where you founded Real-Time Automation, or RTA, as you call it.
Right.
Give us a sense of what it does. Maybe an example of someone you work with, or what kind of equipment you make.
Right. So what we do is move data around the factory floor, and unbeknownst to most people, there's a lot of manufacturing plants in the United States making all sorts of things, and some of the stuff is non-critical. There's a guy that makes clutches, and he creates a new, well, not so much anymore. With clutches are kind of out of date, but a product like that is called discrete, where you make one at a time. Then there's process plants that make soap and stuff like that. Kimberly-Clark right here in Wisconsin makes diapers. This is an amazing process. A diaper machine brings together about 125 different materials every 5 milliseconds. They make 5,000 diapers a second, bringing all these materials together. And this is not stuff where if your computer could just stops or gets hung, you can't have that because every single diaper is destined for this is going to Austin. These diapers are going to the Walmart in Austin. And then these are going to the 7-Eleven in New Jersey. And so if you stop the machine for 10 minutes, they lose thousands of dollars. So the stuff we do is really critical.
So let's be
So,
clear, though. You're not making the diaper
no,
machines
I'm making tools and software and hardware systems that help move the data around that machine.
that keep this
We're in
whole
the
complex
yeah,
process
yeah,
going,
we're
right?
right, exactly. Because say they get a ultrasonic sealer that seals that something and they don't know how to connect that to the rest of the process. We help them by moving that data and getting the connection working for that stuff. So and that's what our engineers do is they build the hardware and software systems that a company like a Kimberly-Clark would need in order to make that machine work.
So, but we said in the introduction, you sat down in the beginning and you were going to be an engineer. You sat and worked on
Yeah,
all this
yeah,
engineering. What
yeah.
changed? What you went to
Well,
hear someone speak, right?
well, I loved writing software. I still, thought was my first passion was software, but it didn't work out very well. I mean, we were, we essentially were answering the phone going, "Oh, hello, what do you need? We can do it. Tell me about it."
When the phone rang, right?
And when the phone rang and getting the phone to ring was a problem. So it was hard. And I kept going further and further into debt and not having enough money to fill the car up with gas. I mean, I was probably down $1 million at the worst of it. And then I got a phone call from a good buddy of mine, Perry Marshall. And Perry said, "Hey, Dan Kennedy's having a copywriting seminar in Phoenix." And he said, "It's 2 for 1. Do you want to go?" And I said, "Who the hell is Dan Kennedy? What's copywriting? And when do we go?" Because I always had the philosophy that if I could learn something, it was valuable to get that book, read that article, go to that event, just if I could learn one thing from all this stuff, and you keep learning one thing every day, eventually you become really smart. I don't know if I've ever become really smart, but I did go to that thing, and that guy changed my life. He said, "If you're a cherry pie maker and you make the best cherry pies anybody's ever tasted, and nobody knows about your cherry pies, you're going to go bankrupt." And then he said, "But if you're a good cherry pie maker and you learn how to market your cherry pies, and so a lot of people, and you can drive traffic into the store to get people to buy those awful cherry pies, you will make enough money where you can hire a cook to make good cherry pies. So it's better to know how to market than it is to know how to do the product or service, because the marketing is really the most important part of a business. So if you ever come to my office, you'll find my office is on the marketing and sales side of the building and as far away from the engineers as I can get.
Which was a move. You were sitting with the
Yeah,
engineers in the
well,
beginning, right?
I was one of them. I was sitting there right there doing stuff with them. And so I came back from that seminar and I started doing, I did probably 1,000 different things. And one of the best things I ever did was write it is a newsletter. I was one of the first in our business to actually write a newsletter. And so we send out and we send it in the physical mail, which is the reason that I do physical mail, because I'm the only thing that shows up in their mailbox at work, because nobody gets physical mail at work except my stuff. So you get attention. I mean, you can't do that with email. You send an email to somebody, they get 500 emails. They're going to give your email a half a second. This way they go, "What's this?" And they pick it up and they open it up to see what it is, and they at least glance through it. And I write interesting articles. For example, I wrote an article about how my dad got me into engineering. And it was an article after he passed. And I got a whole bunch of other guys who wrote emails to me saying, "Great, loved your article. Here's how my dad got me into engineering." So, you can really make, when you write these very personal stories, you can make a real connection with your customers that the big corporations can't. And that's a huge advantage to a small company. If you can be personal like that and have that kind of personal human connection, a big company can never do that. Their lawyers, their PR people, their CEO, their investors will never let them do that kind of stuff. But you in a small company can be the face of the company, somebody that everybody knows that you have 3 kids and knows you have 2 dogs and you love boating and go, you do whatever you do. And that's the kind of stuff where you can really build empathy with the customer so that they want to do business with you because it's a human to human kind of thing. So that was one of that seminar that I went to changed my life.
You
I
know,
don't know.
I went and looked up Dan Kennedy. He's a well-known marketing consultant,
Oh, yeah.
godfather of magnetic marketing, it's
Yeah.
called, and the author of many books, including his No BS series.
Yeah, the No BS series, if there's one thing that I would take away for people who are listening to this, is you want to get the No BS marketing, No BS sales. There's about 20 of them, but those are the kind of the real pillars of the Dan Kennedy thoughts on marketing. It actually changed my life.
He speaks to companies like yours. He's not doing
Yeah,
this for big
no,
corporations. He's trying to help smaller corporations grow big,
that's right.
right?
Right, because the big corporations don't want this kind of stuff. He believes in direct response marketing. So, what direct response is, somebody sees something and they take an action. Unsatisfied with your IRA, call this number. You tell them, you appeal to something that they're thinking about in their head, and you give them an action. And then you can say, okay, we did that and we got 50 people to call. Okay, and it cost us this much. So now we know that we can generate a call. Every $1.10 generates another call. And you can do stuff like that. I mean, that's the whole premise of direct response marketing, which is the only thing that small companies should do. Small companies should never do brand marketing. These are kind of one of my tenets of life that I've come up with. I came up with like 10 things that I think are really important for people to know. And we probably don't have time to go through them all today, but that's certainly a big one.
We're talking with John Rinaldi, founder and CEO of Real Time Automation, a Wisconsin company that helps manufacturers connect products into their automation systems. We're going to take a quick break, then come back and talk with John more about his conversion from engineer to marketer and some of the tenets he just spoke about and the marketing tactics and strategies that make his company successful. This is Kathleen Gallagher, host of Midwest Moxie. We're back with John Rinaldi, founder and CEO of Real Time Automation, a Pewaukee, Wisconsin company that grew considerably after John turned his attention to marketing and developed many clever strategies, including offering customers a series of toys to keep them engaged. John,
Yeah,
let's talk about those
that's one of the
toys.
things that got me a lot of attention and some criticism. We ship boxes to plants, manufacturing plants where you can imagine all these machines are running and there's all this noise and they get my box because they need to put it on a machine and they open it up and it's like Cracker Jack. There's a toy in there and it says on it, hey, if you collect all 5 toys and you send us a picture, we're going to send you we're going to send you a drone. And it used to be a remote controlled helicopter. Now it's a drone. And it's only worth like $15-20. I mean, this is not a $200 drone. We get calls from people who say, hey, I opened the box and somebody had already taken the toy out. Or I've got 3 of the little fish. I need to trade one of them for the toy soldier. Can I drive over to your office? I mean, it's nuts what people will do for free stuff. And I had a competitor who told me, he said, well, John, that's really unprofessional to send toys in boxes like that. You shouldn't do that. And I said, why shouldn't I? As a small business, you have to do things that are not what everybody else in your industry is doing, things that make you stand out. And this is perfect for me. And this goes right in alignment with my philosophy about being pistachio ice cream. I mean, if you're Procter & Gamble, if you're General Mills, if you're you have to be vanilla ice cream because you want to appeal to every possible customer. I'm a little guy here in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. All I need is a herd of like 200 or 300 companies that love me and want to buy from me, and I can do very well for the rest of my life. I don't need to appeal to 200,000 companies all across North America. I just need this little small group. And this is really true of every small company. But in order to make people love you, to be the pistachio ice cream, you have to know that some people are going to hate you. You want the people that love pistachio ice cream. And that's a small group of people that like pistachio. But they like pistachio and they eat it all the time. That's got to be your customers.
I want to go back to those toys, though. I mean, it's fun. You're sending people toys. You have a strategic reason for sending those toys.
Well, yeah, the reason we came up with that was because we sell through distributors, and distributors protect the customer. So we send the distributors give us an order, we send the box to the distributor, and the distributor hands it to the customer, never telling us who the customer is. So this way, when the customer opens the box and they fill out the form and saying, hey, here I am, my name is Joe Smith and I work at this plant, here's my address, here's my email, send me the drone I won. Now we have all the information and we can bypass the distributor and market directly to that customer. There is a strategic advantage, but I would say that the publicity we get about people talking about this is worth way more than the fact that we've figured out how to go around the distributor to get the name of the customer.
What are the toys? Are they figurines?
They're just like they're worth pennies, like 3 or 4 or 5 cents. There's just a figure of a soldier. There's a little really cardboard airplane. There's there's junk. Honestly. but some people are very creative about this. Like they'll get all 5 toys, and one guy put them on the front of his truck like they were bugs. So he took a picture of himself with his truck and all the toys. So some people lay them out on tables. So we always, so we have all these pictures of customers with the toys. These are things the big companies aren't going to do. This is how you compete with much bigger, much more well-founded customers, by being more human, being more fun. And that also works for your employees too. Because what I tell the people that come to work for me is, if you wake up in the morning and don't want to come to work, don't. Let us help you find you another job. Life is way too short to be going to work and doing something you're not happy doing, working with people that you don't want to work with. Get a job that gives you some self-satisfaction and you enjoy. Because none of us know if we have 5 minutes left or 50 years. So you got to err on the fact that maybe you have your life's going to be a lot shorter than you think. So you might as well enjoy the time you have. And so that's kind of that's kind of one of my philosophies.
Another one of your tenets is maybe something that seems unusual at first: charge higher prices.
Oh, yeah.
That's
the big mistake that small companies make all the time. They're too timid about charging high prices. The value of charging high prices, there's lots of value from that. Number one, of course, you make more money. But really, most customers, in how they judge product A versus product B, is if B is priced higher, they assume that there's more value there. And if they can afford it, they want the better quality, especially my customers, because it does matter. It's a big difference. I'm not selling to people it's coming out of their wallet. I mean, it's the company's money when they buy something from me. So that's a totally different situation than trying to go to a homeowner and say, hey, I can paint your house and it's going to be $30,000 when somebody else is charging $15,000. That makes it different. But in my business, the key I learned was that high prices imply that they're going to get more value, they're going to get more support. And when you charge higher prices, you can do better marketing, you can get more customers to you, and then you can you can just sell to the ones that are willing to pay the higher prices.
You've also learned that it's valuable to have tiered pricing as you raise your prices.
Yeah, that was a really interesting thing that happened a number of years ago, because I read all this market. I spent 7 years learning marketing and sales, reading everything I could read, newsletters, books, seminars, videos. And one of the things I got a newsletter one day, and it talked about ABC pricing. And I go, what's that? And I looked at it and it said, you charge a small price that doesn't include very much. You have your real price that you want people to pay. And then you have a third package, which is a really high price that makes the middle one look good. So I had a product at that time that was $6,000. It was some software. And so I immediately raised it up to 17,000. And then I took out support and I took out documentation. I said, you can just email us if you have questions, but it's kind of like you're on your own. That's the low end one. The middle tier was everything we were selling for 6,000 is now 17,000. And then I created a $45,000 product that was we would send an engineer to your office to do it for you, to integrate it for you. And I would be on the phone with people and I go, well, we have three packages when they ask what the prices are. And I'd go, the first one's 45,000. And then they would yell into the phone, $45,000. My God. They would fall off their chair. And then I'd say, well, wait, most people buy the medium package, which we call the rapid fire. And I said, the rapid fire is only 16,000. And they go, oh, well, that's not bad, or 17,000. So I started making $10,000 more a sale just by doing ABC pricing.
John, you have such a good overview of manufacturing, really. What do you think the biggest challenges are in the manufacturing industry?
Well, the big thing we have to do now is we have to figure out cybersecurity, and it's very difficult because there's so many different kinds of devices that can be attacked. Plus, we have all kinds of other things that happen too that bring this to life. For example, there was an auto plant that one morning at 9:15 in the morning, all of the AGVs, the automated guided vehicles that bring parts to different stations, they all just stopped. All 32 of them just froze in place. And everybody goes, cyber attack, we've been attacked. So they're running around like crazy. They're looking through their IT logs, trying to see where the malware got in. They're calling their AGV manufacturer and they're fooling with this. And you got to realize when an auto plant stops, it's $1 million an hour is what is the cost, because you've got hundreds of people just laying around. You've got inventory just laying around not being used. The costs are massive. So all of a sudden, about 11:45, everything just starts up again and starts running normally. And then after lunch, it stops again. Like at 1:15, it stops again. And they can't figure out what the hell's going on. At 3 stops until about 4 o'clock. Everything starts up and runs all night. Next morning, same problem. Well, turned out it wasn't a cybersecurity issue. A sales guy that visits the plant really often and knows everybody and everything, decided to put his cell phone on the manufacturing network. And he took the address, he changed the address of his phone to be the address that the AGVs use to talk to their master device to get instructions. So as soon as he walked in with his cell phone, the AGVs would stop talking to the controller and they would start talking to his cell phone, asking his cell phone what to do next. And and his cell phone didn't answer, so they would just stood there because, hey, what do? We don't have any instructions. It was just hilarious, just a hilarious thing. And I am so thankful that I'm not the guy, I would love to be a fly on the wall and listen to the conversation between him and the auto plant, because he cost them probably 15 to 20 million dollars. I don't think he's welcome back there ever again. So that was a pretty funny story, but we've got all these, but that is kind of a cybersecurity issue. There's no reason that he should have been able to take his cell phone and put it on the manufacturing network. That stuff can't happen. But we've got even big companies like this, and this is one of the top 5 automakers, and they have these holes, and I'm worried that the Russians or the North Koreans or the Chinese or the Iranians or could cause a black swan event and take all of our power systems down, our water systems, or manufacturing. We could be in for some terrorism on that kind of scale that could be pretty devastating.
Well, you recently created an employee stock ownership plan, or ESOP as they're called, where employees get the opportunity to own shares in the company. And you sold 20% of the company to your employees. Why did you decide to do that rather than sell the company to someone else and have a big payday all at once?
As you've been hearing throughout this recording, we do a lot of very unique things. The newsletter I send out, we send out 15,000 pieces of mail 4 times a year. It's a lot of money involved in that. We do these toys in boxes. We send out a Valentine's Day card. I mean, no business sends out Valentine's Day cards. So we send out Valentine's Day cards. So what would happen is if I sell this to your typical investor, what they will do is to get their money back, they will cut out the Valentine's Day card, they'll cut out the toys in boxes, they'll stop the newsletter, they'll probably lay off a support person. And as I was telling you about pistachio earlier, they will make us vanilla. And I never wanted that I don't want that to happen, because as a small company, we can't be successful competing as a vanilla company. So I can't, if I sell out to, yes, I would have a big payday. The people here some of them would get laid off. Other ones would be much more unhappy. The company would stop making money. So it would be a terrible thing to do for me to sell to a typical investor who doesn't believe in the principles that I just laid out. And there's few people that do. So the ESOP is a way for me to transfer ownership to the employees and make them all owners, and the ESOP can buy it from me. The people who work here believe in these principles that I've been talking about, so they would continue this and the way we've been going and build on that. So that's kind of was a way for me to move forward, take equity out of the business without destroying it.
It's an amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing the wealth of experience that you've built up over the years, John.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride.
You can read more about today's guest by visiting wuwm.com. Don't forget, you can also listen to the show as a podcast if you'd like to take us on the go. Just search for Midwest Moxie, that's MOXIE, wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher. Midwest Moxie was created by executive producer Audrey Nowakowski and me. Today's episode was produced by Audrey Nowakowski and engineered by WUWM's Jason Reevy. Join us next Saturday afternoon at 2:30 to hear from more visionary Midwestern founders building innovative companies. That's right here on 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. Support for Midwest Moxie comes from Microsoft, whose efforts to drive technology development across the Midwest and beyond include its National TechSpark community engagement work, which started in Wisconsin, its role as co-founder of Titletown Tech in Green Bay, and its new AI co-innovation lab at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. More information is available at Microsoft.com. Support also comes from Quarles, a multidisciplinary AM Law 200 firm with approximately 550 attorneys who support large and small businesses, from Fortune 500 companies to startups and entrepreneurs across the country. More at Quarles.com.